From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay, China takes countermeasures against an increase in U.S. tariffs. The debate grows over just how to help U.S. producers. And many wonder what's coming next as we continue to follow this developing story.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried about what the impact is going to be on our farmers.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The market's continuing to nosedive as the trade war between the U.S. and China deepens. Soybean futures fell to the lowest level in a decade, and China answers the U.S. tariff increase with tariff increases of its own. China is raising tariffs on $60 billion worth of U.S. goods. The finance ministry is saying the penalty duties of 5% to 25% will be on hundreds of U.S. products, including batteries, spinach, and coffee. They will take effect June 1st. Now, it follows the U.S. increasing duties Friday on $200 billion worth of Chinese imports from 10% to 25%. But talks between the two sides will continue. National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow is saying Chinese officials have invited U.S. officials to Beijing for further talks, and China's chief trade czar saying the negotiations have not broken down, saying they've only suffered a small setback. He says officials are still cautiously optimistic for the future. And we're following this new development in the trade war tiff. President Trump announcing late yesterday his administration plans to provide about $15 billion in additional aid for producers.
This is a very positive step. I love the position we're in. There can be some retaliation, but it can't be very, very substantial by comparison. And out of the billions of dollars that we're taking in, a small portion of that will be going to our farmers, because China will be retaliating probably to a certain extent against our farmers.
The president not providing any other details about what that aid package would look like, but U.S. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue weighed in on a possible plan a little bit over the weekend. The secretary says he's working on a plan, hoping to submit it to the president within a few days to a couple of weeks. He also said that executing that plan will take time given the size of current grain stocks, adding, quote, "I cannot say for sure right now when purchases of those kinds of products will take place. We have to look at the seasonality of all the crops across the spectrum and agree on which are hurt and damaged by China's decisions." Congressional Republicans and Democrats said they hope the tariffs on Chinese goods are short-lived. Some Republicans said that they understood and agreed with President Trump's move to increase the tariffs. Yet Democrat Ann Kuster says she's concerned the president's decision could have a ripple effect on the U.S. economy.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried about what the impact is going to be on our farmers, and I'm definitely worried about what's going to happen, you know, automobiles, anything with aluminum or steel. So I think we got to wait and see.
The president's exactly right to go after China. He's the first president to really take them on head on. I think a good, solid agreement with China could actually create a new era of fair trade with China, fair for our farmers, our workers, and our businesses. This is leverage to keep everyone at the table.
And we're hearing from several groups in the ag industry about the latest tariff increases and the possible aid for producers. The National Corn Growers Association, the National Association of Wheat Growers, and the American Soybean Association releasing a joint statement saying that, quote, "Farmers across the country are extremely concerned by the actions taken Friday by President Trump and his administration," end quote. The National Pork Producers Council saying, quote, "It is fair and right that the U.S. government purchase significant quantities of pork over the next 18 months to ship as food aid to help ease the financial burden placed on producers," end quote. It's just one hit after the next for our industry and the rural economy. We will continue pressing the administration to reopen these critical markets, said Growth Energy and Ethanol Industry Trade Group. The Renewable Fuels Association expressing similar concerns, quote, "News of the worsening trade conflict with China is yet another punch in the gut to the U.S. ethanol industry and our partners in agriculture," end quote. And we're continuing to cover the trade war tiff from all angles. Stay up to date anytime. Check out agweb.com, plus follow AgDay on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Meanwhile, Secretary Perdue was in Japan trying to cook up his own trade deal. The USDA chief grabbing an apron and tongs Monday, hoping to entice the Japanese to buy more American beef. Perdue says that as a top consumer of U.S. beef, he hopes the two nations can get a trade deal done, expressing impatience with progress, adding that they've been going on for 2 years and, quote, nothing has happened. The administration worries Japan will opt for ag products like beef and wheat from nations they've recently signed trade deals with, including Australia and Europe. And last year, Japan had a $70 billion surplus over the U.S. According to first quarter numbers from the U.S. Meat Export Federation, beef shipments to Japan finished the first quarter 2% higher in volume than a year ago. But starting in April, several major competitors are getting tariffs reduced due to their trade deals. Now, overall in the first quarter, beef shipments globally were down 3%, worth $1.9 billion. Exports to Korea still red hot. On pork, first quarter exports were 6% below last year's pace in volume and down 14% in value. Because of retaliatory tariffs, pork exports to Mexico are down 13% and down 20% to China. USMEF says a 62% tariff on U.S. pork in China is cutting America's ability to capitalize on African swine fever. Meanwhile, Hong Kong confirming African swine fever has found its way there. Authorities planning to cull 6,000 pigs late last week. Now, the original pig was found at a slaughterhouse that's reported to supply about 80% of Hong Kong's pork. China tightening animal movements following the outbreak, causing pork prices to soar by as much as 40% over the weekend. While all of this trade news is going on, the U.S. is in the throes of trying to plant 2019 crops amid an extremely wet season. Corn and soybeans continue to trend well behind the 5-year average for planting. About a third of corn is now in the ground. That's 36 points behind the 5-year average. Illinois, 71 points behind, with less than a day suitable for field work last week. Indiana, 51 points behind. Ohio, 43. Iowa, 28. And just 10% of corn has emerged nationwide. In Illinois, usually about half the crop is up. Soybeans showing 9% planted, 20 points behind the 5-year average. South Dakota is yet to start. Devastating weather swept across the southern states. Tornadoes and several days of heavy rain caused widespread damage and flash flooding. More than 10 inches of rain flooded parts of New Orleans. Governors in Louisiana and Mississippi declared states of emergency. All of that rain in the south slowing planting progress to a crawl. In Louisiana, the optimum planting date for soybeans is rapidly approaching, pressuring farmers to get this year's crop in the ground. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux has an update.
Louisiana soybean farmers are behind schedule in planting this year's crop, but it's not for a lack of trying. Drier conditions are now allowing growers to plant as many acres as possible before the next rain.
I think right now planting is certainly underway this week. Probably they're trying to plant the world in some places where conditions are favorable.
While research indicates the best yielding soybean crops in Louisiana are planted by the first week of May, Paget says don't let the calendar dictate your planting schedule, especially this year.
Growers need to realize that we're having issues with seed quality, and I would encourage them to plant when conditions are favorable for seed germination and plant establishment.
Paget says a key to a high-yielding crop is getting off to a good start. Crops that begin poorly generally require more time and money.
If you start off with a bad crop, then you're going to have to increase your inputs and try to nurse it along.
Louisiana is expected to have a soybean crop of nearly 1.3 million acres, which is similar to last year's total. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Hopefully more producers were able to get out in their fields this past weekend. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen has an update in today's Crop Comment. Cindy?
Well, Clinton, we are starting to get in more planting pictures and videos, even if they may be from other countries. John Carmody of Cascade in Western Australia shared this really cool video with us. Now, he attached a GoPro on the side of his equipment as he tilled the soil. John says it stayed on the whole time, but that is such a cool video. Looks like lots of beautiful blue sky for planting there right now. Let's take a look at the wind speed forecast for today, and nothing too bad across the country as we head through our Tuesday. As we put this into motion, you'll see kind of somewhat breezy conditions, especially out in the west. And you got a few pockets in the plains and into some part of the eastern part of the country. Pretty quiet in the overnight hours. Now, as we head through tomorrow, we'll see those winds picking up, especially in the northern plains and out into the southwestern United States. I'll have more on your national forecast coming up.
Coming up, we talk complications for ethanol demand. Plus, while we talk about planting out west, it's harvest time. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon takes us to the Golden State.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Arden Mills says it's closing 4 flour mills. The plants are in Macon, Georgia, Loudonville, Ohio, and Red Lion, Pennsylvania. They will close at the end of June. The other plant is in Rush City, Minnesota. It will close early next year. The company says the closings were necessary based on current and anticipated demand and to enhance efficiency of the remaining 35 flour mills. As we told you at the top of the newscast, soybeans took a big hit on Monday, dipping below $8 a bushel for the first time since 2008. Here's the latest from the CME.
Today in the grain markets, we've had a lot of activity. The soybeans did drop and hit a 10-year low. That China retaliation just washes out any little bit of optimism that was left. It's hard to say where the real bottom is. The corn also was rebounded. It actually started down. That U.S.-China deal kind of fell apart, and the market actually was able to rebound. There's huge carryouts that are still a factor, and with the trade talks producing really nothing at this point, it seemed like the down was the only way that it could go. Now, wheat was mixed as well. It opened much lower. The early carryout projections are the biggest since 1988. That really put some big pressure on the market. Now, with the hogs, they also are lower. China retaliation really hurt the futures an awful lot right now. No doubt the trade war is definitely taking its toll on the market. Concerns that the talks are completely falling apart are impacting the entire complex of all the pork industry, and increased volatility. Could that even be possible? But it certainly looks like definitely yes.
Here at the Agribusiness Desk, I have Ted Seifert, Zaner Ag Hedge. Ted, let's talk about some of the demand issues that we've seen facing our markets. In particular, ethanol has been something it's been a little up and down over the last few months.
Well, this is the season where it's up. Right. And we have seen a rebound in corn use for ethanol, and we've seen ethanol stocks coming down. So, I mean, the ethanol picture has gotten a little bit better in the last few weeks even though profit margins are still under a significant amount of pressure. That's not good news going forward. But ethanol's been a problem. I mean, look at ethanol. Ethanol has been the shining bright spot of a corn demand sheet or corn balance sheet for a long period of time. But just recently, that's kind of come into question. And we've seen the USDA actually lowering their ethanol estimates. And a lot of that has to do with what the EPA is doing.
Sure.
You know, giving the small refiner exemptions in a big way really puts a lot of pressure on RIN prices. RINs are cheap, so it means I don't really have to blend as much ethanol, right? You know, I look at ethanol for this marketing season at 5.5 billion bushels. I think when all is said and done, that's going to be too high. So
we talked a lot in the previous few years about demand globally for American ethanol.
Yeah.
Has that changed at all?
Well, China's the big question mark.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, if we can, China has said that they want to move by 2020 to be more green and whatever.
More
and
electric cars, sure.
Ethanol is a big part of their plan, right? So if we're doing free trade with China, ethanol should be a big part of that package, and that would be really optimistic for us. However, you look at one of our other main consumers, which is Brazil. Brazil had a great corn crop, but they also had a great sugar crop, and they do a lot of sugar ethanol, so they don't need as much of that from us. Now, a lot of times we'll swap corn ethanol for sugar ethanol with them. They'll still be a player in the market, but the ethanol demand internally is what I'm worried about.
Okay, something to watch. Appreciate it, Ted. We'll be back here with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
For professional marketing advice specifically tailored to your needs, call Zaner Ag Hedge at 312-277-0113. Ag Day, brought to you by Prosaro Fungicide from Bayer.
Welcome back to Ag Day, here with Cindy Clausen. Cindy, as we look at this map, you described it to me as a messy map.
Yeah, it really is. There's kind of fronts all over the place, and we'll see pockets of some precipitation, but at least some folks get a little bit of time to dry out. Let's take a look. One of the main areas that will enjoy some dry weather, some very welcome drier weather, is right here in the Gulf Coast states. Now, we will see a little spotty precipitation as we get down into parts of southern Texas. We do have, again, this messy map. We've got rain, and look at that. It's even cold enough for snow in New England, so we'll watch that as that low pressure system continues to pull away. We'll see some spotty precipitation in the upper Midwest, parts of the plain states. You're going to see this low pressure system scooting off to the southeast. We're looking at wet weather along the west coast. Heading into the overnight hours, we're going to see that low continuing to pull away, but on the back side of that, still cold enough for some snow, especially over into Maine. Now we're going to watch that low. That's going to start to creep back into the northern parts of the Gulf Coast states. Had a lot of rain in that area over the last week or so, so we really don't want to see that. We'll start to pick up some more moisture in the nation's midsection as well with a couple of fronts there, and we'll continue that wet weather along the west coast. Here's what it's looked like over the past 24 hours. Florida's had a fair amount of rain, especially kind of the central part of Florida. And we've had a fair amount in the western part of Texas as well. The next 24 hours are going to really focus on the northeast with that rain and snow, but then we're really going to pick up that moisture in the nation's midsection, especially with that low that's moving towards the boot heel of Missouri. Looking at our temperatures, man, has it warmed up in a lot of the nation's midsection. The colder air remains in the northeastern United States. That's where we're seeing that chance for some snow, especially in the far northeastern parts of New England. But watch what happens in the overnight hours. We stay mild in a lot of the country with those lows in kind of the 50s and into the 60s. The cool air remains in the northeastern United States. Heading into tomorrow, still pretty warm, and that warm air is continuing to spread a little bit further to the east. You can see those 60s now coming into the northeast, but pretty mild for most of the country. Somewhat cool, though, with those rain showers off into the northwest. Look at the jet stream, though. You can see that ridge that's bringing all of that warm air. You've got that low pressure that's been bringing the cool temperatures and the rain and snow into the northeast. Putting this into motion, you can see that starting to pull away. The ridge holds strong in the nation's midsection, but you got another trough that's going to be in the western part of the country, so look for some clouds and some rainy weather continuing there. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check on the weather where you live. San Carlos, Arizona, sunny and hot for you today with a high of 92 degrees. Belle Plaine, Iowa, showers and some thunderstorms possible with a high of 68. And Macon, Mississippi, lots of sunshine with a high of 77.
Tariffs with China also cutting into U.S. milk exports. But there is good news about prices. We have an update next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
The tariffs with China affecting every aspect of agriculture, including dairy. The U.S. Dairy Export Council says since the tariffs went into effect in July of last year, U.S. dairy volume to China has fallen 43%. But it says the U.S. sold record volumes of cheese to places such as South Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia. In fact, there was a 4% increase in the value of products sold year over year. The total volume was down 12% from March of 2018. Whey exports to China were down 52%. And the latest USDA World Agriculture Supply and Demand estimate continues to bring good news for prices for dairy. The report lowered its milk production forecast for this year, but predicts higher exports. The strong demand is helping push cheese and non-fat dry milk prices higher. That's triggering great Class 3 and Class 4 prices. The WADSI report predicting an all milk price of $18.05 per hundredweight. Up next, we head out west where it's harvest time.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. Bell pepper harvest is underway in Coachella, California. We'll have an update on that ahead in the show.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
The weather has been somewhat cool in California this season, but crops are starting to roll out of the Golden State. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon has more on the start of pepper harvest.
Clinton, green bell pepper harvest is underway in Coachella, California, and has been for about a week. And temperatures are in the high 80s, but believe it or not, some growers say harvest is running a little bit behind schedule because the temperatures are too cool.
Our crops will continue to produce some peppers and we're able to extend our season. Normally it's a 4 to 5 week season for us. And if the weather stays mild, we're able to extend it probably into mid-June, possibly even July.
Sandeja says even though harvest has been running a little bit behind, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Plus, the market has even recovered a little bit too. Reporting in Coachella, California, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in Farm Country.